Welcome to Divorcing Strong, the podcast that pulls no punches when it comes to divorce. I'm Becky Sampson, better known as Bulldog Becky Brockovich, and I'm here to give you the straight talk, the strategies, and the subpoena secrets you won't hear anywhere else. With expert guests and proven advice, you'll learn your rights, your options, and gain your power that encourages a fair and equitable outcome. Divorce doesn't have to break you. It can build you. Let's get to it. Oh, hello. Welcome everybody to another episode of the Divorcing Strong podcast. I am your host as always, Becky Sampson. And, we actually had a couple of episodes that we weren't able to do last week. So I'm grateful to be back at it this week. And today's guest is someone that I reached out to several months ago when I was first starting, and she is a pro. So I'm excited to have her on today. She's very well connected, very well integrated into the divorce space. So I'm excited to share her with you today. But before we start, make sure that you like and subscribe. Let me see if I can find my little, there we go. Like and subscribe to the channel. Make sure you share with people who are going through divorce or people that you know that might need help and assistance through the process, because this channel is all about resources and people and advice that can help you navigate through the legal process. It's definitely, we address other things, but the legal process is something that we really focus on because it's one that's very well misunderstood. And if you don't understand it, I can guarantee you that it's going to be a really rough go at it, especially if you're dealing with a high conflict. So also make sure if you would like to get the terms, you can go to the 100 divorce terms that I provide right there. It's a free download, and I guarantee you, if you just download that and study the terms, the legal terms, you're going to be a million times or further ahead in the process of your divorce and understanding the terms and the terminology that they use to better understand your rights. So thank you again for joining me today. So, all right. So without further ado, today's guest is someone who has spent years studying the one thing that most of us are never prepared for, the hidden system behind the divorce. Ravit Rose is the divorce scientist and founder of the Arus divorce community ecosystem. After a decade-long personal journey through her own divorce, she realized that something most people don't discover until it's too late. Discover is a game, and most parents don't know the rules. Oh my gosh, did we talk about this on last week's? So we don't like to think that it's a game, but it really is the game, and you need to know the rules. So what started as her own battle for truth and stability became a mission. Today, Ravit works with parents across the U.S. and Canada, teaching them how to avoid traps, mistakes, and emotional landmines that cause divorce to turn nasty. With a research-backed psychology-informed approach, she shows families how to stay grounded, strategic, and centered on what truly matters: their children and their peace. Whether you're in the middle of a divorce, considering one, and supporting someone who is, this conversation will give you the brand new lens on the process and the power you actually have in it. So with no further ado, we want to welcome Ravit Rose to the show.
Hello. Thank you, Becky.
Yeah, thanks for taking the time. As always, I love to have experts that are really in the space 24 hours a day. And I know, not 24 hours a day, you know what I mean? Like, you're in it to win it, to help people through the process. So one of the things I love to start these shows off with is tell people kind of your history. And your passion comes from your own personal experience. So tell us a little bit about that and what got you to where you are and why you're so passionate in helping people.
Absolutely. So I got divorced about 14 years ago, thought it was going to be easy, turned out to be extremely litigious. For the first couple of years, I was in court every 18 months for at least 2 to 3 day trials. And I questioned everything: God, the universe, why me? What did I do wrong? What on earth did I do? I really felt like I was the problem. And it was only until about, 6 years later that I published my book, Unwanted Nasty Divorces, that I interviewed hundreds of families, and I realized, hold on a second, this is not me. This is the system, and this is a game. And so once I understood the game, then I started to explore more into like, well, how do we solve this? What are solutions that we can have outside of litigation? And fast forward, became a divorce coach. I opened up a divorce center. iRuse was founded, and here I am.
So explain to people actually what iRuse is and what services do you provide? Just because, I mean, you obviously knew it's a game. So how does that, how do you teach people the rules of that through what you provide?
So one of the biggest problems and challenges that people have that I've noticed, because we study human behavior, so we really understand people and their choices and all of that. One of the biggest points that we found is that people don't know who to hire. Who to hire, where do I start, how do I get this going? So what we do at iRuse is you can take a free self-assessment on our website. Once you do that, you can schedule a free strategy call with a divorce specialist. Right now, that's with me, and that's where I take a high-level look at where you're at, what's going on. I create you a strategic action plan. That means that I introduce you to professionals who could help you save your emotional pain, so reduce all the unnecessary garbage that you don't need, reduce your legal fees, protect your wealth, and leave an impressive divorce legacy behind for your children. So with all 4 keys in mind, we look at what's your priority, what are you looking for, and who can I introduce you to who can help you do that. So whether you're looking for someone in the divorce process, the legal, financial, or real estate, or what we do is we cover what I call the mind, body, and soul. We have all kinds of different coaches. Everyone has different specializations and designations: parenting, career, mindset, spiritual, and energetic. So we help you as a holistic to rebuild and restructure your life. So the divorce process is one piece of it, but it's not your entire divorce. You have to make sure that you as an individual are okay in order to support this legal process. So we help and match and connect you to the right professionals, and then that way you can know who to go to and all of that, because every one of our professionals is vetted and is heart-centered, resolution-oriented, versus someone who just wants to cash you in the bank and say, I want more of your pain, because the more pain you have, the more you're going to pay me my fees. We don't bring in those people.
Which you have to be really careful, because I will say that there's not a lot of people that I've run into that way, because that's not who I surround myself with. However, there are those type out there. And you don't want to be taken advantage. And one of the things that I always tell people is that if you don't get the right people in the right team, it's going to be very, very expensive to switch and go to other people, because then you have to explain your whole situation again. So I really appreciate that you have that resource for people. But let's back up just a little bit. And when you started this business, what was one of your greatest challenges in starting it, and where did you start in that? Rather than, I mean, it takes a while to have all those resources, but where did you start?
In my days when I started, it was networking, BNIs, and meeting live in people. So everything was in my city. I think I lasted there about a year and a half, 2 years. And I said, why am I staying only in my city? Let's go and explore. Yeah. So interestingly, a few years before COVID, I decided to get rid of my office, which I had been renting, and work from home. And I said, time to expand. And I just started to outreach people and have conversations, and one thing led to another. And this is where I am right now. So everything was from the bottom up.
Yeah. Well, and your divorce, it took 10 years. Is that correct?
To build all of this, or my divorce itself?
No, your divorce itself.
Divorce itself was 14 years.
14 years. Wow.
Yeah.
So here's the question I have for you, because some people feel like, well, first of all, that's very rare, and good for you for sticking with it. My question for you around that would be, like, if you have somebody that's listening that feels like this is going to take forever, what advice would you give them? Number one, and number two is, what kept you going and staying strong through that process?
So, first question is, biggest problem that I had is I didn't know who to hire, and I didn't know where to start. So I never had a divorce experience. At the time, I was in my 30s. I didn't have any friends who really had a lot of experience. I had one friend who got divorced and signed a piece of paper at like a Tim Hortons on a napkin. And that's the experience that we had. So I didn't know that there was these shark badass lawyers. I didn't know that there were all these games to play. And finding the right professional for me was the biggest problem that I had. A, it was my budget, which I didn't have much of. And B is I didn't have the resources because I didn't know anyone. It wasn't my world. So when I started to realize that I was at odds, I said, hold on a second, there has to be something different here. And if I don't do something different, I'm going to keep spiraling around. And that's exactly what happened to me. And that's how I ended up spending $100,000 until I ended up representing myself. Until I said, you know what, why do I keep hiring these guys who don't do a good job, who put me in like more of a mess than I was in before? I don't have the funds anymore. So I learned to just do it on my own. It was hard. It was not easy. And I was up against like someone who knew exactly what she's doing. She knows how to play the system. And it's like a pattern she repeats with every one of her clients. And so she had a system that was working so well. And I had to come in and say, I know nothing. And now I have to go and like figure out how to beat her. And I did. And I made a lot of mistakes along the way. And one of the biggest lessons that I learned was the success of your divorce will start off and end off with you. It's how you show up, what you say, how you react or respond, and what you're thinking. So I didn't realize how I had put myself in this mess deeper and deeper and deeper because of my negative thoughts, because of my fear, because of my anxiety, because of all of that. So a lot of people say, no, divorce is just about the legal. And as long as I have a good lawyer, I'm good. Wrong. It doesn't work that way. Mm-hmm. It's like 90% you, 10% the legal system. And people say, no, that's impossible. I said, I guarantee you. So once they go through the system, they go, oh my God, you're so right. As soon as I start changing my frame of mind, as soon as I started changing the way that I'm thinking, the way that I'm speaking, everything started to change.
So Ravit, you may not know that that's exactly what my experience was in the court system too, because I represented myself. And then I had an attorney, and then I represented myself towards the end of it. And some people can't do that. I just had a conversation with one of my clients this morning that not everybody is set up to represent themselves, because it is not easy.
Yeah.
And there's some advantages and disadvantages, because once you have an attorney, it's now the attorney that's speaking for you. You lose your voice in that regard. So you had actually said something really important. What were some of how did you know anything about the system? It doesn't sound like you knew much about it.
No. Nothing. I was like so junior at everything possible. I didn't even know how to submit documents, how to do subpoenas. I didn't know how to do motions or affidavits. But luckily, where I live is that they have a service that helps you. And they give you like documents and things like that. But still, even though you still have to know how to speak in front of a judge, you have to know what to say and what not to say. You have to be ready, like mind, body, and soul. Like it consumes you. It takes everything in you. Like you come out of there and you're exhausted because you've put in like 3,000% effort in that day, 2 days, 3 days. And so one of the biggest lessons that I learned is we need help. This is not something we should be doing alone. Like if someone really wants to go and represent themselves, great, 100% backing you up, but you need a support team. This is not something that you could do all on your own without any assistance, without any professional guidance, because you're going to end up making mistakes. So why not bypass those mistakes and those trials and errors and work with someone who can sort of level you up so that you could achieve what you want to achieve off the first trial without having to wait 3-4 trials until you master it, which is kind of what happened to me.
Well, and I have to agree with you. I absolutely have to. And I wish that wasn't the case. And for some people listening, they may feel like, I don't have a lot of resources. I don't have money. He's left me with nothing. And so you really have to fight or advocate for yourself through the court. And you brought up something, every jurisdiction or every area has self-help. And yes, does it take some effort? And yes, does it take, some finagling to try to make sure that you get the right help that you need to and the advice that you need to? Yes. And there's other resources that help people through that process. I know another thing that you just said that I think is funny, because I had an attorney on a couple of weeks ago on my podcast, and she said divorce is 90 or 10% legal, and the rest of it, like, it's all the other stuff, right? And so you totally agree that it is you learning how to navigate and be able to know what the rules of the game are. So what are some of the rules that you found of the game? You mentioned a couple of them: knowing how to talk to a judge, how not to talk to a judge, how to work with an attorney. What are some of the things that you've learned along the way, pro se? Because I haven't talked a lot about of people doing pro se, but representing themselves, that you learned that really gave you the good result in the very end.
So we work very closely in the IROS community with judges. Some are retired, some are active. And if you go inside the divorce community and you go into divorce blog, you'll see a bunch of interviews with a judge. And she talks about what it takes to represent yourself, the fact that the judge is listening to you from the moment you're outside the courtroom to the time you're inside the courtroom. If you don't think that people are talking and sharing the information with a judge, you're wrong. So how you show up from the moment you step into that courtroom will dictate the success of your divorce process, or that case in particular. Everything is about mindset. If you go there blazing guns and blaming, no matter how angry and frustrated and agitated you are, you're going to look like the troublemaker. And so you really want to show up with more confidence, more ease, stability, more earth into your soul, fact, logic-based, not pointing the fingers and making him or her look bad and trying to like create something from nothing. When I was thrown into these spirals and, it was like pointing fingers, Ravit is this, Ravit is that, Ravit is this, Ravit is that. There was like a whole list. I was like, oh my God, I didn't realize there were so many problems with me. Instead of me acting back on each one, I decided to stay my ground and talk about something totally different. So I totally digressed the conversation. And that was the point. So they try to trick you in. You have to be able to pull yourself out. How do you do that? You really need a good divorce coach. You need someone who is back there, like behind the scenes, prepping you, helping you. You can vent, you can be emotional with the divorce coach, you can do all these things. But when you show up to negotiate and when you show up to like talk business and get things done, you need to leave your emotions at the door. And it's very hard. Yep. And when you're representing yourself in court, you are all emotions because everything is coming out, right? I was even told once, like, are you sure you didn't study law at one point in your life? I said, nope. And I'm happy I never did, because I don't think I'd survive a career in this industry. So it really has to do with you and how you feel before you even walk into that courtroom, before you send a motion, before you send an affidavit. And you have to clear all this stuff out. That's why I always talk about divorce is also mind, body, and soul, right? It's all of you in one piece.
Yeah. And I have to agree with you. You will get eaten alive in the court system if you end up with high emotion and blaming and not being grounded. Yeah. Because it's funny because if you're in a high conflict divorce, Ravit, you probably have experienced this as well, is that they try to get you to be emotional, outbreak, blame, all of that stuff. And that's really where my specialty is when I prepare people for court, if they're pro se, is preparing their mindset to going, look, this is what's going to get you in trouble. This is what not. I'm not an attorney. I don't give legal advice. It's a strategy that when you go in there and self-represented. And for me, when I don't know how you do it, and I would love to hear how you did it, but before you had a hearing, for me, I blocked out my whole morning before a hearing. And I tell my friends and I'd say, look, don't call me, don't text me. I'm going to be on the beach. I'm going to be doing my whole self-care, everything. And then right before I went in for the hearing, I'd be outside of the courtroom and I would be texting for all my angels to be praying for me. You know what I mean? Like that's what worked for me to be able to shield me from taking the bait, so to speak. If things were said in the court and I was thrown off guard, is just to stay. I love that you said you don't attack the very things that they're saying. you speak from a place of power and conviction and confidence in the facts, not the emotion.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So how did you prepare yourself when you were self-represented?
So I usually had to be there like at 8 a.m. So the day before, I'd usually have my father come to my house, take care of my kids, just so that I could like not have to think about it. And I meditated, I was quiet, long baths, and talking to myself over and over again. And I learned to convince myself that this is a game. I said, Ravit, it's a game. It's a game. It's a game. Don't take it seriously. Don't take it seriously. Don't take it seriously. And I would tell myself over and over again, it's an adventure. Let's see what happens tomorrow. Whatever happens is meant to be. And whatever is meant to be, I believe should happen. Now, did everything turn out great? No, not necessarily. But when you're in the heat of the moment, you don't necessarily know that you're having a bad day or that you said the wrong thing. It's like sometimes it comes back to you like an hour or 2 hours later, like, oh, darn, I shouldn't have said that. And then instead of being hard on myself, I said, no, whatever I said had to be said. That's it. I don't regret. I'm not going to go back and retell stories of what happened. I should have done this. I should have done that. I learned from my mistakes. So what I learned to do is to stop looking in the past. And that helped me tremendously, because otherwise I would always feel this guilt that I did it wrong. I said it wrong. I didn't stand straight. I didn't do this. I didn't do that. I forgot to show them that important piece of paper and that proof, whatever. No, I didn't do that. And then when I started to work with judges and work with other professionals and coaches who were helping me, I really I vented to them, and they just sort of like reminded me again and again and again. It was like a drill of like, what are you doing there? Why are you there? What are you going to do? How are you going to show up? How are you going to be? And then I visualized how I was going to be on that day. And that's when things started to change drastically, where there are a couple of court cases. And I didn't even say more than 2 words, because the judge just saw my demeanor, looked at the other side. They got in trouble for what they did. And I just sat there and stood and said, great, I'm happy I didn't pay $20,000 for someone to just sit there with me.
Yeah. Well, okay. You brought up some really good points with all of that. One is that you said that when you go into court, you didn't say it, but at least what I heard you say is to not have expectations, right? Don't be too tied to expectations, because when you go to court, anything can happen.
Yeah.
And so if you're not tied to anything, then you don't get sideswiped.
Well, you have an idea, like generally what you're looking for, but it doesn't have to be exact the way you think you should say it or the way it should happen.
Yeah, because I know many times I'd go into court and I'd have a bunch of exhibits, and I was hoping to get all the exhibits in, and I only got 1 or 2, right? Of or I put an exhibit in and it got shut down. And so it's letting go of the results, but being willing to be in the process. And being present. And I actually even love that you went into court and you didn't have to say anything, because sometimes the people don't realize that the judges are, they get like this much time with you and they hear this much of the story, and they don't have years of experience with your spouse. So they're trying to determine based on your demeanor and how you interact and how you deal with court orders, who's compliant, who's not. And sometimes less is more. And
the judge is reading you.
Yes.
They're looking at you. They've got these glazing look in their eyes. They're pros. They don't want to hear the chatter. They don't want to hear all of that. They don't want to hear what he said, she did, who did. You know what he did by 1942? You know what he did? And you know what he did like 6 years ago? If it's not relevant, they don't want to hear it. It just makes you look bad. So you kind of leave that on the side.
Yeah. So when you have people approach you, I love that you've had this experience with Pro Se, because there's not very many people because you and I both won our cases, so to speak, or stayed and advocated for ourselves, which I know that people can do it. Do you typically find that people come to you are represented or not represented?
So the people that come to us want to stay out of court, actually. So everything we do is helping people to reduce the time, reduce the money, and the stress. So we work with mediation, collaborative, legal coaches, anything like that. And what we do is we help the individual to reframe their mind and to really start off on a fair playing field. So rather than elevating and escalating and like pointing fingers and starting the bloody war, we say, If you want the bloody war, you need to go somewhere else. We can't help you because we know what the disaster is on the other end. If you want something different, that's where we're there to help you. Is it going to be easy? It's going to be easier for sure than litigating. Is anything going to be easy like that? Yeah. If you guys go to Tim Hortons and sign a piece of paper and say, you get this and I get that, that's the easiest. That's the best. A lot of people say, what about an amicable resolution? I said, amicable means that the two of you can have a conversation in the same room. We will help you so that we can, either one of you or both of you, be able to show up in a way where you're calm and that you know that when you're negotiating, you're talking about one thing. You're not talking about that he didn't take out the garbage or that he did this or she did that, or that we're not going there. We're talking about what is in front of us, the kids, the money, all of that. We also refer you to professionals who can help you understand money, budget, how things work. If you were to get a settlement, what does that look in the future? So what we see often is that a lot of people make decisions based on the 4Ds. When you make a divorce decision based on a desperation, denial, or despair, you will with 100% certainty come back and regret it. Mm-hmm. So we help you get the information you're looking for so that you know that all your facts are there, and based on facts, logic, and non-emotions, it makes sense for you to agree to this. Versus doing the opposite, which is you're forced into something, you feel coerced, you feel whatever, you didn't pay attention, you didn't do your research, you signed it, you came back one day, and now you want to reopen Pandora's box and renegotiate. So we want you to avoid that.
Yeah. And it's a lot harder. People don't realize that they can reopen the issues, but it's so much harder. It's harder on you, on your family, on your kids. So it's really, do you find that people come to you? I know I experienced this where people are just like, Becky, I just want this over. And I'm like, hang in there, because you don't want to get on the other side and regret some of the decisions that you made out of desperation, like you just said.
Yeah. Those are the people that will always come back with the 4Ds, one of the four. If you feel like you have to get it over with, that's mistake number one for you. And that's going to be your greatest demise. When you feel like as long as I sign the paper, as long as the divorce is signed, sealed, and delivered, I'm good. No, it's not. Because what if you left money on the table that you didn't realize? What if now you're trying to go out and, qualify for a mortgage and you don't qualify because you wrote your divorce agreement in the wrong way? What if, now you don't have enough money to buy food at the end of the month because you just wanted it over with? People who feel this desperation to hurry are the ones that will always make the mistake. So please don't rush. It's not meant to be rushed through. Be methodical, be smart, be strategic. And then divorce one time, and be done.
Oh, there's a great soundbite right there from you.
I will too.
I have to say that and just breathe through it, right? Because it's just like it will be over at some point. Can you tell me an experience that you can just think right off your head of somebody that you guys have worked with that you were just so proud to be able to support and help them through it, that they would have gotten, if they didn't get the help that they needed, they would have gotten a very different result?
Yeah. So we have one father who refused to take custody of the kids for his 1 or 2 week vacations, usually summer, Christmas break and all of that. And the mother was losing her mind. She's like, I don't understand. Why is he always refusing this? And so I spoke to him and I said, listen, I'm a neutral. I don't know your wife. I've spoken to her once. I don't care whether you do it this way, that way, whatever. I don't live in the same city as you. I'm never going to bump into you, and I'm not going to charge you for this. So what is going on? And it turns out that he just didn't know how to be a single dad for 1 week. Aww. As simple as that to a woman, as difficult as that for a man. So we created a plan. We created a schedule. He knew exactly what to go buy. He knew what they were having for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. He knew when to do laundry. He knew what to do. And then from that moment on, I have the shivers. From that moment on, he took his kids for 1 week, then 2 weeks, and then he took it for 3 weeks at a time when mom had to go away for the summer. Sometimes it's as small as that. Sometimes our pride or not knowing who to talk to is the most destructive. So what I say is, come to us. Let me find you the right person to help you get unstuck, because that stuckness of yours is costing you not only health issues, I guarantee it, It's causing the other party also health issues. It's affecting your kids and it's costing you money. And this is unnecessary stress. Had another father who was, I don't know, $150,000 in, and he had a lawyer. It was in California, and he was spending like $800 an hour on his lawyer. And every time something happened, the mother's bills were being paid because that's whatever their process was. So she kept going back to court. And so every time it was costing him $50,000, $60,000 every time. And he was going crazy. We worked together and it was beautiful. Totally changed. Everything stopped. Everything calmed down. He started thinking and seeing her differently. And everything started to change. And every 6 months, he sends me these wonderful messages.
Oh,
beautiful. I love it. I'm so happy. I feel so good that I helped someone get out of that and move on with life.
Yeah, and sometimes people don't know the mess that they're in until they talk to somebody that's been in the industry, that sees and has the experience to even know that there's other options to get out of the mess that they're in. Yep. And that's really a big portion of why I'm doing this Divorcing Strong, is because I want people to know what their options are and what resources are out there. I mean, when I was going through mine, I didn't know there was this whole community of people out there. And I love that you were able to address something that we don't really talk a lot about when people come out of divorce. There's usually one person that doesn't have a lot to do with the finances. I know both of my, I know my former spouse, this last one, didn't know how to do the finances when he got divorced. He had never even done any of that. And even my husband now, 27 and a half year marriage, didn't have anything to do with the finances. I mean, so it was a real learning curve for him to be like, oh, now I'm going to pay the bills and what's the automatic, and to have people help you through that process. And unless, instead of having to do that all on your own, is just invaluable. I love that you share that, and it empowers him with the information to be able to have a really good relationship with his kids.
Exactly. So rather than focusing on all things you can't do, you're going to focus on things you can do and how to make your life better. I always say that divorce is not supposed to be the end of you. It's not total destruction and, who's the warrior and who's the strongest and who has the most power, money, and ego. It's about you two just don't get along as husband and wife. So therefore, just split up and move on. Yeah. That's all it's about. It's about you're changing, you're evolving, you're different, things are happening. Therefore, just move on, and we're going to show you how to move on. No one teaches you how to get married. No one teaches you how to get divorced. Until now, this is what we do.
Well, I love that you provide a free assessment. Talk a little bit about that and how people, I know we've got it on the bottom of the screen so you can go there, but tell them about what it is and all the information it gives. We talked a little bit at the very beginning, but
absolutely. So the assessment helps us understand what's going on, and it also helps you really look at all the different areas of your life. Once you take that assessment, then you can grab a time on our calendar to schedule a free 20-minute strategy call. And this is where we go through every single area and say, what can we do to help you make life better and easier? What challenges do you have? Who can we introduce you to? And sometimes you're going to be like saying something and go, hold on, that's actually a big one. You think it's not big, but that's actually big. And then I give you, let's say, an article or a video or something to look at so that you'll educate yourself on that and say, ooh, I didn't realize that actually is a big piece, right? So when we're so emotionally overwhelmed and there's so much stuff and confusion and negativity and fears and doubts and all of that happening, we don't know how to just be. We don't know how to pick up on those things. So that's my job, is like I kind of like pick out what's important, and I also help you solve your challenges. So sometimes you think, well, the only option I have is to go to a lawyer. I said, no, you don't have to go to a lawyer. You can go to a specialist who's divorce trained, who can help you do that. It'll cost you less money, less time, and you're not going to upset your ex. So why don't we do things in such a way that is not adversarial? The system wants you to fight and be contentious and to create, drama out of nothing and create, stories out of like, battles and to wars and to, you don't need to do that. There's so many better ways to do that. But the thing is, you need to know how. And that's what I do. I show you how, and I introduce you who could do that for you.
I love it, Ravit. I thank you so much for being willing to come. I have, recently I started this new thing. I ask a question at the very end of this, but what does divorcing strong mean to you?
Being smart, being methodical, and being logical in your decisions so that you could always keep your eye on your end goal and never digress from that end goal, because that's where you want to be. And every decision that you make along the way brings you to that end goal.
Oh, I love it. Thank you so much. And you guys, if you guys want to reach out to Ravit, make sure you go to her website, take the free assessment. Look, when I was going through a divorce, I had very little income or very little resources. So I was always all over the free things because I needed to educate myself. And I sound like a broken record on these shows, but get yourself the help and the resources and the information. Knowledge truly is power. And we're here to help and we're here to serve. So thank you so much, Ravit, for what you do in this space. You are a powerhouse. And I truly believe that we go through what we go through in our lives, just like I did, so that we can give back. And that's my true intention in being in this space, because it really does matter and you matter. So thank you so much for joining us this week on another episode of Divorcing Strong. Thank you, Ravit. And
Thank you,
we'll
Becky.
talk to you soon. We'll see you on the next one.
Take care.
Thanks for listening to the Divorcing Strong podcast. This episode is sponsored by Only Subpoenas, where we make subpoenas simple, powerful, and 100% compliant. If you're having a hard time getting the information you need to settle for a fair and equitable divorce, let us help you. Whether you're an attorney or you're navigating divorce on your own, subpoenas can uncover the truth, secure the evidence you need, and level the playing field. To see how we can help, book an appointment by visiting our website at onlysubpoenas.com.